Sanbanan Dumlang, hello, it's Simply Sfiso and welcome back to my YouTube channel, whether you're a new or returning subscriber. As you can tell by the title of today's video, we will be discussing the Netflix documentary Popstar Academy that follows the formation of the global girl group Katseye. So before we get into it, if you're not yet subscribed, do hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you can be notified every time I upload a new video. Without further ado, let us dive into it. So I'm going to assume if you're clicking on this video, you are familiar with Katseye or Popstar Academy, but in case you're not, Popstar Academy is basically a documentary that follows the formation of the global girl group Katseye, which is meant to be a US-based girl group, but that follows the K-pop methodology of how they were trained and formed and even how the group will function. So Popstar Academy was a documentary. Before that, there was actually a survival show called Dream Academy that was airing last year. Now I actually did try to watch the survival show when it was airing, but I fell off around about mission 2. That's why I kind of fell off, and I was like, it's fine, like I'll catch up with this group whenever the documentary is released, because I remember last year they did mention at some point that they are going to release a documentary. So if you're clicking on this video, you probably are aware of the drama surrounding Manon and everyone else. And so that's like the first thing I actually want to address, like the proverbial elephant in the room. Now, when I went into this documentary, I had seen clips of what happened, right? I had seen clips of like that group therapy session, and I'd seen people taking clips of stuff that Sophia said and even clips of stuff that Laura said and like throwing a lot of hate towards those members. A lot of people were speaking up for Manon, saying Manon was being mistreated. But I was like, you know what, before I formulate an opinion, let me watch the entire show, right? And what I will say, having seen what happened, right? So basically what happened is, right, when the girls started, right, they were put into this training program. Like, they knew that it was going to be a training program similar to how K-pop groups train for debut, right? But they had no idea that it was going to become a survival show later on. And so some of the girls have been training for a year or two, and then Manon, she comes in a little bit later. She is of a lower skill set than the other members. And then when the survival show kicks in, right, initially she was getting lower rankings because, you know, she is not as skilled as the other members when it comes to vocal and dance, right? But she's pretty, she's beautiful, she's gorgeous, right? She's gorgeous, and she just has that star quality. She just has certain charisma about her. It's just, you can't not look at her, you can't not admire her. So cool, when the survival show aspect comes, and suddenly Manon, who used to be at the bottom of the rankings where it was, you know, monthly evaluations and execs choosing, now when it's fan voting, she's suddenly within the top 5. And girls who used to be at the top are suddenly at the bottom because they're not as popular. They're not gaining as much attraction from fans. And that is a concern, right? That makes the girls frustrated, which I can understand. Right? I can, to be honest, look at the whole situation. I understand how they felt, why they felt that way, but I do think it could have been handled better. From, like, mind you, like, I'm not being too critical of the girls, because I also understand that at that point, you know, some of them, like, they're just fresh out of high school or still, you know, with like literally teenagers, so can't expect them to necessarily act the best way. I think the problem is that this all went down on camera and it was aired. And I think this is where also I question the producers. I also question, you know, the company, right? Because I think the company also should have maybe done something, you know. I mean, the situation got so bad that Manon literally had to move out of the dorms, right? And, you know, even from early episodes, you can see that, like, Manon isn't as close with the other girls as the girls are with each other. Like, Manon was always othered, but I think once the survival show element kicked in, it just became so much worse. And let's not even talk about Adela. Now, Adela is someone else who's been getting a lot of hate, particularly because of the scene in the group therapy session where she talks about how girls like her, I'm paraphrasing, right? But basically about how, you know, girls like her aren't really represented, and then you're having someone like Manon getting all this attention because she's pretty. Now, that, you know, that particular choice of words was questionable. You know, I'm just getting a lot because now you hear like people are like taking it like, you are this blonde white girl and you talking about you're not represented. Instead, here is Manon, you know, a black girl who is getting all the praise and stuff. It's kind of like, you know, they're just certain undertones. They're just they're just it doesn't come across so well. Like it's giving microaggression. I don't think that was her intention at all. I know because she made specifically representation in terms of her country where she comes from, but there's no denying that in the entertainment industry, right, aesthetics is a huge factor because the first thing people see is literally your visuals, right? Literally, like before you even open your mouth to sing, before we see you bust a move to dance, the first thing we see is how you are presented. So, that it's kind of like, I mean, I don't think that throwing hate is helpful. I don't think leaving hate comments is helpful. I think we can have conversation, rather have conversations. And I think maybe if someone were to maybe sit her down and like maybe, I don't know if anyone did actually sit her down, maybe have like a constructive conversation with her, be like, okay, listen, this is how you felt, but it's kind of problematic for you to say such a thing. And this is the way I think also the company should have maybe done something more, right? Because obviously, yes, these girls at that point in time, they're competitors, right? So we're not expecting them to be friends, but it was kind of, they were kind of catty, they were kind of mean, and maybe it's how it was edited, because also, I mean, they're trying to create a documentary series, right? And they're also, I think, trying to get people who weren't necessarily interested in Katseye before to tune in, right? So they had to create some drama, right? So that's probably why I think they did include that. But now we have the issue of, like I mentioned, Sophia and Laura getting tons of backlash. And these are girls who debuted and made it into the group, right? And now everyone's looking at them funny because it's like, now it's like people are questioning whether all the niceness towards each other, like whether their friendship is even genuine and all of that. And it's like, I think this is where a lot of people are questioning, why did HYBE release this now? I think had this been a traditional survival show where we're watching everything unfold in real time, where usually by the time the group debuts, right, we've seen them sort of resolve things, I think it wouldn't have been an issue. But now it's like we're getting all this new information after the group has debuted, and it's making people side eye the girls. But me personally, like, I don't necessarily think it's that deep. I do, like I said, I understand where the girls are coming from. I just feel like the situation could have been handled better. I feel like Manon had to take on a lot of responsibility because she was the one who had to like sit down the girls and be like, okay, hey, let's talk about this. And I mean, even in the group therapy session, Sophia mentions that Manon has come to her, and to say that she. So I guess I feel like that's why I feel like Manon was put in a very uncomfortable situation. Where she had to take accountability. And I think Manon, looking at Manon specifically, right, a lot of people have mentioned how Manon is from Switzerland, right, and the work culture and work ethic in Switzerland is quite different from the US and even East Asia, like the K-pop industry. You had a lot of girls who had injuries, who were feeling sick, but they were still showing up, like literally Sophia during mission 3, right, she was not feeling well, but she showed up and she did what she had to do. Even Samara, when she had an injury, she was showing up for practice. So I think there is that difference in, like, some might see it as maybe Manon not taking it seriously, but even she said that like her mindset going in, she didn't realize how serious people were taking it, but now she's taking it more seriously. I think also it's not like Manon was maliciously or intentionally trying to bring the other girls down. That's why I do think it should have been handled a lot better. I think considering the fact that most of these girls are still like very young, the adults in the room should have maybe taken initiative to sit the girls down and maybe also have a talk with Manon. Because even though they were saying they were questioning her commitment, but also it's kind of like y'all scouted her for a reason, right? Y'all saw something, So I mean, at the end of the day, she got in the group, So who got the last laugh? But yeah, those are my thoughts on the Manon versus everyone situation. Now let us discuss some other notable cast members and other issues or themes that came up while watching this documentary. I think another big element, another big arc of drama, which I touched on in the part about, Manon versus everyone, is the stress of being in a survival show and the fact that that was initially hidden from the girls. There is a tonal shift in the show from like episode 5, like the shift that you can literally like, wow, like initially, like it was very much, I think, even though like they knew they were competing against each other, but you just had to, you need to, if you do well, impress the execs, you're gonna make it into the group. Now, with it being a survival show, which they do touch on in the group therapy session, there's this whole other element of social media, right? This whole other element of people who don't know you, people making judgments based off of a short clip that they see, on the internet. I think that's also where it's kind of like, with the voting, right? I do not know how many hours you were training, right? I was not there with you in rehearsal, right? Even with typical survival shows where we see certain clips of the rehearsal, right? It's like, at the end of the day, people have their own criteria. Like some people, they were saying, like, some members were getting more popular because of their countries, whereas, it's like others seemed like, like I'll be honest, like Manon caught my eye from the very beginning. When they initially released that concept art film, like Manon caught my eye. And to be honest, not knowing what was happening behind the scenes, but when I was seeing, watching, the missions, I actually enjoyed Manon's performances. Like I felt like, vocally, I do really, really, really love the tone of her voice. And I think, with more training, she can really become a force to reckon with in terms of vocally. I think vocally, that's where Manon needs to really focus on, But back to the matter and the issue of the stress of survival show, I think the contestant who we really got to see how stressful it is for Lexie, because there was a point when, I think it was the end of the second mission, where Lexie is just completely checked out. You can see that she's just not there, and it's, in a way, I do think the show broke something in her. I think they did betray the girls, they did sort of manipulate them for the sake of drama. And power to Lexie for realizing that, this is a toxic, hostile environment, and I want no part of this, she showed a lot more maturity than I think a lot of people would have done in this instance, and I think Lexie was actually someone who was, she was a top runner for sure, she was a top runner for sure. So I think even when she expressed that she wants to leave, I think the company was a bit hesitant to let her go. I think they were hoping that, okay, you know what, give her a couple days, she'll snap out of this. But then eventually they realized, okay, this girl does not want to be here anymore. We can't force her to stay, so we have to let her go. And then the third major drama element is the breaking of the NDA. Now, this was about episode 3, where the first episode teases the girls are being shouted at, and there's drama, there's tension. So obviously now you wonder, okay, so how did we get it? What did the girls do? Why is Son so mad? Saying that in all these years he's never seen trainees be so disrespectful, and the fact that they're not showing any accountability or anything like that. So we found out that, all the girls have had secret Instagram accounts where they were posting clips of themselves. But the biggest issue is that Naisha allegedly posted a clip of an unreleased song. So essentially she leaked it, which is in gross violation of the non-disclosure agreement. And so Naisha is let go. And I will say, at this point in time, I was quite sad about Naisha's departure. Naisha is someone who, from episode 1 when I watched it, I was like, ooh, I love this girl. I was like, let me not get too attached, because I know she doesn't make it into the final lineup. I don't even remember seeing her when I was watching Dream Academy. So I was like, she's gonna get eliminated very early. In fact, I had thought the reason why, because as I was watching the show, right, episode 2, right, Naisha's constantly getting critiques saying, about, her style of dancing, and the fact that they're saying that, they seem like she gives too much energy that she can never just hold back. And I'm also thinking in mind the type of group that Katseye becomes. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking maybe she got cut early by the execs because they saw that it's just not working for Naisha. I don't think that this was the reason that she got eliminated. But, some people wonder, why is it only Naisha who felt to doubt the consequences of it? But, apparently she was the one who had people who are also outside of the program on that Instagram account, although she denies it. But it literally, that scene with her and Missy arguing back and forth was so cringe. It was so difficult to watch, because it's literally your word against hers, And I would like to believe that the company would do their due diligence before just letting someone go, and that they're not making this up. And at that point, I felt bad for her. Until which, I didn't mention earlier with the Manon vs. Everyone part, but Naisha is someone who also, later on, she comes back, and her and Adela, they go on and on about how unfair it is that Manon is still there. It's kind of let it go. Let it go. I think this is why at some point, it's just y'all need to just let it go. Let it go, okay? Other notable cast members I do want to talk about is Nayeon. Nayeon is someone who, when I was watching Dream Academy, I was like rooting for. Like, yeah, she's someone I was rooting for because loved her vocal, and also she's gorgeous. Like, she's gorgeous, you know. And I did see clips of her talking, like, you know, about, like, even Dream Academy was airing about Nayeon not being so committed to the program, which is why she was eventually let go of. And, you know, even watching the documentary, that came up, that became a theme, you know, of how Nayeon was saying, asking whether or not she'll get the chance to be a soloist. And, you know, it's kind of like, part of me still wishes she was in Katseye, but I need to let that go. But I do also understand why perhaps they didn't want her in the group, because they kept emphasizing how much they have invested into the group. They kept emphasizing how there were people who are committed, because I'm guessing they didn't want to find themselves in a Camila Cabello or Jessie Nelson situation, right, where someone just leaves the group in a messy way, or even I'm thinking Zayn from One Direction. Like, I think that's probably why they want people who are committed to being a group, because if you think about the groups I mentioned, right, they were formed on the show The X Factor, right? And there are people who initially, when they, if I'm not mistaken, when they had auditioned on the show, they had auditioned to be soloists, but then they were put into this group, you know. And so, whereas, I mean, it's different, like with Katseye, you know. And I think even with like most K-pop groups, like, people go into it knowing that they're going to be in a group. And I think even within, I think of like K-pop, right, there are some K-pop idols who, you know, they start out in groups and they go on to have amazing, and they flourish as soloists, right? But also there are others who just, you know, they do their group stuff, and that's that. I feel like not everyone is born to be like a solo star, you know. And I think it would be interesting also to see with Katseye in future, like, will they let the members have solo moments? 'Cause I think one of the things I love actually about K-pop is that K-pop idols can still be part of a group, but then have like a solo album or a solo comeback, but then still continue with the group. Like, just because a member is having a solo, it doesn't mean the end of the group, you know. I'm thinking if they're going to follow the K-pop mythology, they should actually, you know, have that be a part of Katseye. But not now. Obviously, they still want to build a foundation, still want to establish a fan base for Katseye. But yeah. Oh yeah, and then the final cast member who I want to talk about is Emily. Emily is someone who I was even like going back to my notes, as someone who like immediately caught my eye in terms of her dancing ability. But something that really struck me is how much she improved vocally, because that first evaluation, her vocals were terrible. But then seeing how she was able to actually improve on that, you know, and actually, and it's like, you know, I think someone who's watching the documentary, not knowing the outcome, might think that Emily's gonna make it into the group, because I feel like she's someone who gets a lot of screen time despite not making it into the group, and she is particularly crushed by not making it into the group. But yeah, that's circling back to the Manon situation. I think this is gonna be like the wrapping up section, you know, my final thoughts overall on the documentary. I think another reason why I think people had such a strong reaction to the Manon situation is because, you know, looking at previous girl groups, you know, like Normani in Fifth Harmony, what's her name, Mel B in Spice Girls, right? There is this history of the black girl in the girl groups being mistreated, you know. So I think that's also why people had such a strong visceral reaction to the drama, to the scandal that was released. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think Popstar Academy was a good watch. It was good television, right? I had a fun time watching it, like, to be honest, you know. I do think some people blew the drama way out of proportion. Like, it was not that deep, right? There was no need for even just leaving hate comments to certain people. But also, then again, I do question, you know, the company, right, HYBE and Geffen's decision to release this documentary, because on one hand it's like, you know, we have viewers who lack media literacy, who lack comprehension. I remember I watched one review, I can't remember which YouTuber was reviewing Popstar Academy, and they said that it's like a lot of, you know, a lot of things had to be inferred, right? And that's a skill that not many people have, or not many people are willing to exercise, which, you know, for me personally, it's like when I'm watching something, you know, I always like take it, like, especially like reality shows or even like documentary, I always take it with a grain of salt that, you know what, this, at the end of the day, it's edited to create a narrative, right? Some things, obviously, like, if you said those words, but like, you said those words, and then like Adela said what she said, you know. So I think we can critique that, we can question it, but being hateful is not helpful. You know, at the end of the day, being hateful is not helpful. Some people feel like this is sabotaging Katseye. They feel, especially because of the hate that certain members are getting. But I do think that it's kind of had a bit like it somewhat worked in terms of getting people to talk about Katseye. You know, I guess, you know, the saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity. Any publicity is good publicity. Because I'll be honest, I walked out of this documentary caring a lot more about Katseye than I did before. Because before the documentary, like I did listen to their song debut. I did listen to their song Touch. I wasn't particularly moved by it. I think after the documentary, after the documentary, when I found myself actually being like emotionally invested into the girls, I actually like found the music to be a lot more. I found like myself more compelled to actually. I even then actually was interested in actually wanting to listen to their debut EP, which, you know, quick thoughts on that. It's too short, number one. But I think overall, I think the songs are good. I think it's a good debut. You know, I'd give it a solid 7 out of 10. My favorite song is Tonight I Might. I literally have that song on repeat. Like, I don't know, for some reason also I feel like the songs do have a little bit of a nostalgic feel to it. I can't put my finger on what it is, but like it just takes me back to when I was a teenager listening to these songs. But they don't sound dated, not at all, you know. So I am curious to see musically what else Katseye do, you know. I watched some interviews where they were discussing the documentary, and, you know, they're talking about how, you know, that is, you know, a version of themselves from like 2-3 years ago. They were in a very stressful situation, and, you know, they do, you know, admit that it was quite, you know, raw, you know, and like Manon did say in one interview that, you know, that they really showed what was going down. But I do wonder, you know, what it was like for the girls watching it and having to relive that, you know, particularly for Manon, you know, having to see how like almost everyone hated her. You know, I'm hoping, you know, after the show they did actually sit down. I hope they also involved like some professionals, you know, to help them work through whatever feelings they had, because even when you're watching the finale, you can still see that there is some resentment towards Manon making it into the final lineup, you know. But, you know, I've been seeing some of the other girls like Ezrella and Lexie, and like I've seen some other girls from Dream Academy, you know, showing love to Katseye, doing the touch challenge, which I think is so cute. I mean, there are some who I've seen be messy, like apparently Naisha threw some shade at Manon, and, you know, Adela also apparently has been messy, like they've been dragging her. But it is what it is. Yeah, I think that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching. Do let me know if you watched Popstar Academy. What are your thoughts? Who is your bias in Katseye, and what are you hoping the girls will do like musically for their next album or comeback? Yeah, I think I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell, and until next time, I love you guys so much. Bye.